time with us. Got Steve Baker, Scott Hardy, Mitch Sneed here with Tommy Battle, Huntsville Governor. I almost called you a governor already. Huntsville Mayor who hopes to be governor.
We've earned the mayor's title. Let's see if we can earn the governor's title.
That's a great way of looking at it. Well, tell us a little bit about, you tell us a little bit about your campaign and some of the ways that you've had to do that. And tell me a little bit about what you're finding. What do you think are the important issues that people are sharing with you, and some things that you hope to address if you're elected?
You know, it's been very interesting. We did all 67 counties, which means that we put about 45,000 miles on our car going around the state, and it is a big state, but it's a great state. And one of the things that we find as we go around is that people are looking for something different. You can see those out of the last 5 elections. People are looking for something different. They're looking for they're looking for some different thinking. They want to be proud of their government. They want to believe in their government, and quite frankly, state government is much like federal government. But there's a lack of trust there, and we've been able to establish a record over the last 10 years in the city of Huntsville. Been mayor for Huntsville for 10 years, and we came in the midst of a recession, which is one of the great times to come in. We took care of the business the way that you have to in a recession. You had to make sure that you made revenues equal expenditures, and that was a hard thing to do. But we did what we had to do. But during that time, we said let's put together the plan, the strategy that will take us when we come out of that recession, because everybody knows it's just a cycle, and it's a cycle of up and a cycle of down. And we were in the down cycle and knew that we were going to be coming out of it at some point. So we doubled down on economic development. We started going out and doing economic development on a regular basis. We did what we call change the conversation, and changing the conversation meant that we started talking about our community in a little bit different way. Everybody in the state of Alabama has had the experience of somebody coming into the state, and they come from outside the state. They have some preconceived notions about the state of Alabama, and once they come into the state, they stay here 4 or 5 days, and when you put them back on the plane to go back out, or put them in the car to leave, the one quote that they all have is, "Wow, I had no idea." And whether they come here to Alexander City, where they go to Montgomery, Mobile, Birmingham, or whether they're in Hamilton, they walk away and said, "Wow, I had no idea." And so we started saying we need to do something to make sure that preconception that comes into the state, that we can change that. And so we started talking about Huntsville, a smart place, and we started talking about second largest research park in America, more engineers, degree professionals per capita than anywhere else in the U.S. All the things that you would put with a smart place. And one of the things that we've come through with this is that we need to change the conversation on the state of Alabama. Let's talk about Alabama, a smart place. I mean, it's great to be number 1 in football, but that's not the only thing left in the world. If we can name ourselves as Alabama, a smart place, a place that does things that aren't done anywhere else in the U.S. or in the world. In Mobile, the Austell shipyards are making one of the most highly technical destroyers in the world right now. In Dothan, the International Beam is making a laminated wood product, which is going to take on the steel industry. In Montgomery, we're doing the cyber defense for the Air Force. In Birmingham, we're doing cures for cancer. In Muscle Shoals, we're doing music that's heard all over the world. In Huntsville, we're putting together the engines that will take man back into deep space and maybe to Mars and back. And we've got the first human genomic medical clinic. So we do things that are not found anywhere else in the U.S., and a lot of times we sell ourselves short. And so the idea behind Huntsville, a smart place, or Alabama, a smart place, is let's change that conversation. Let's change the perception, because as we grow, we're going to need to attract a workforce, and a workforce is going to have a reason to want to come here. And we don't want them, because of preconceived notions, to automatically knock us off the list.
So thank God for Mississippi.
Yeah, and I think we can go way beyond that "thank God for Mississippi" idea. So we started with that. We took on education. Education is a tough one. There's no one size fits all. Every community is a little bit different, and that's why you have local school boards, and in each community you need to tailor your education plans. But there are some common factors in there. you can come in and you can. We did a digital education where third grade and up, everybody was issued a laptop, and it took care of that digital divide that is out there in many school families. And we also had the teachers tied in digitally so that they could watch the progress of the students and see where they needed to work. We started coding in second grade, which is not that hard. There's some national programs that help you start coding, and we started doing that years ago. Pre-K, we started 8 years ago in our system, and pre-K just means that you can take some of the young people who are coming in from tougher situations, and you can help bring them up to grade level faster. And so we started doing pre-K, but the biggest thing that we did was we put an accountability system in ours, where you measured a student's progress at the very first of the year, you measured it at the end of the year, and you made sure that you had a year's worth of progress out of a year's worth of instruction. You had 7 measures of that. One was testing. The second was peer review. Another was student review. Another was review of the teacher to make sure they got there on time and that they didn't have excessive absenteeism. And then you would have a faculty review. But you ended up with a system that made sure that with that progress that we could make sure that we had progress in the classroom, but also the whole school progressed. That helped. We built $250 million worth of schools because we wanted to show that if we put our money into our schools, that meant that we valued education. And then we added infrastructure. You go from education to infrastructure. And infrastructure today is everything from roads, water, sewer, electricity, but it's also some things like fiber to the home. It's broadband connections. It's being able to be part of the connected world, and for us, that made a whole what I would call a shadow economy. We had one young lady in Huntsville who worked for Disney World in Orlando, and she did her CAD/CAM drawings of the new products that she wanted to put out there, sent them down there, they'd send them back to her, and at the end of the month she'd get a check from Disney World and that check would go into our economy. I mean, part of a shadow economy. We had another gentleman who came to me and said, I work for the San Francisco Department of Transportation, and I do my drawings here, I send them out, they send them back, and they send me a check at the end of the month, and that check becomes part of our economy. So we took on education, we took on infrastructure, we added a quality of life, which is, that's the reason that people want to be part of a community. And out of that, over the next 10 years, we added 24,000 jobs. 24,000 jobs, Remington, Polaris, GE Aviation, Aerojet Rocketdyne, Blue Origin, Toyota, Mazda. All those were added to our community because we were able to do some things to get ourselves set up for growth. And that growth made us be able to have a prosperous community.
How about as you look at the mundane things in a state, for example, the prison system?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that going forward?
I think the prison systems there's a threefold process at the prison system. Number one, you need to work on a general consensus about who needs to go in. Your prosecutors, your police chiefs, your sheriffs, and your mental health people need to get together and say, look at those who are going in and look at the qualifications for those who are going in, the pre-sentencing of those going in, and say, are those the people that really need to be in jail? Do they serve society well for us to spend $39 a day to keep them in jail? Second thing is, what do we do with the prisoners when we have them in there? I've been up to some of the prisons, and really right now we're warehousing people. We're not training them to have a skill when they come out. And if you don't have a skill, if you're not trained, once you get out, you're going to go back to the front of the line. You're going to do something that puts you back in jail. You're going to go back front of the line. You're going to come back in. It's a cycle that you'll go through. The third portion of it is, what do we do with them once they get out? Prisoners, once they get out, if they don't have a trade, they don't have a way to get a job, they're going back to the front of the line. So we've got to relook at our whole system, and it's the whole system. Who comes in, B, what we do, how we train those people while they're in there. Some of the sheriffs have talked to me and said they have thousands upon thousands of beds that are available in their community. Part of it is to say, hey, we'll put those prisoners in your community, but you've got to do some kind of remediation with them to make sure that when they come out, they've got a trade, or they've got a GED, or they've got something that helps them get back into the workforce. And as we do that, then we start having a more productive citizen coming out of there who doesn't just go back to the front of the line and come back through the system. It's not an easy task to do, but it's something that we have to look at our whole system and have a holistic look at the system.
Obviously, a lot of times comes down to funding, even the economic development.
Yeah.
You look at the Huntsville with the plant that's coming there. The tax abatements are massive.
Yeah.
At what's there. The prisons all comes down to money. In a small setting like a city, sometimes you can sell that a little bit better because you can see the immediate.
Sure.
In a state that says if you tax me, you will not get elected again.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you pay for all those things?
And I'm not so sure we don't look at the holistic look is those people coming out, if they go into the workforce, all of a sudden 5% of everything that they make comes back into the state. Yeah. You're not spending $39 a day or $39,000 a year to keep those people in prison. They're part of your productive society all of a sudden. That to me is the offset, and it's callable offset that makes dollars and cents values to each person.
Something too, I think that you'll be able to tout that probably compared to any candidate is your economic development success in Huntsville. So I guess I have a two-part question. How do you plan to implement that success on a statewide level, and then in terms of workforce development and education itself, how can we build a better workforce so that if that is expanded statewide?
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head. This is my 10 years. This is a 10-year track record that I have, and that's a track record I have that nobody else in the race has. But how do you take that from one place and take it, and do it on a bigger scale for the whole state? And the idea is that you're going to tie together. You got to tie together your K through 12. Tie them to your junior colleges, dual enrollment, things like that. You've got to be able to work with them. And we've got to recognize that we need some technical expertise out there. We don't need, everybody's not going to be a rocket scientist, everybody's not going to be an engineer, everybody's not going to need a 4-year degree. That we need to take those K through 12 students, and the ones who come out of high school and are ready to go to work, then we need to help them go through 2-year certification programs and go from those 2-year certification programs straight into the workforce. They go into workforce earlier. Many of them, machining, welding, advanced manufacturing, you're going to make 60, 70, but you can make up to $100,000 a year coming straight out of high school. That is one of the places that we've got to expand our base. Boston Consulting Group just did a study, and they talked about how manufacturing was coming back to America. Much of our textile manufacturing has been wiped out over the last 10 to 20 years. But the idea is that China has, the wage differential has grown much smaller. And secondly, China's economy is growing so fast that they're eating up all the product that is produced in China is staying in China. So the idea is that we have a chance to look at manufacturing and have a second look at manufacturing. Go back to some of the things that we were able to do earlier. Come back to the textiles. Come back to the trades. Come back to the idea that we can make apparel and add those back into our economy. It's time to well, a lot of times we've just said, hey, that's an industry that's gone by our wayside now. But I'm not so sure that today with the new technology and some of the new improvements and efficiencies, that we haven't set ourselves up for the future and set ourselves up to be able to come back into the manufacturing world.
Wow. That'll be a big hit here to hear that.
Oh, listen, sure. It's a big hit with everybody, but you've got to realize the world's changing. As the world changes, if we don't change with it, and if we don't stay ahead of that change, then we haven't done our job. And that's why we've got to stay on top of it. We've got to move forward with some of this. some of it we may shoot at, and we may miss the mark, but some of it we're going to shoot at, and we're going to hit the mark. That's what we've done in our community year after year after years. You put out a very broad brush stroke and a very shotgun effect of going after lots of industries. You're going to land some of them.
Yeah, I think that's if you don't try, you're not in the game, you're not going to win.
That's exactly it.
This is kind of our speed dating portion of this.
Sure.
This thing. Talk a little bit about how you feel about the gambling initiatives and the way the state has attacked those, as far as the Attorney General being involved, and you have the Porch Creek, who are expanding. They just bought a casino in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania yesterday.
Sure.
Bradley Burns trying to backdoor in to make that process, their land all here legal. So we have timberland here, could be a reservation.
Mm-hmm.
The OWA down at the beach would also become eligible to have gambling. And then yet statewide, people like Milton McGregor are fighting an uphill fight.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you see that?
There's two sides of gambling. Number one is lottery. How many years have we struggled with the lottery? 25, 30 years we've been through the lottery. To me, a lottery is no more than a financial tool. But if the legislature decides that we're going to use that financial tool, we need to have a vote of the people. That is the people
that was
need
the next
to vote.
question.
Yeah.
No,
Okay. But they need to be able to vote on it, and if the people vote for it, then we need to put together the most comprehensive, transparent commission to run that, where people believe in the honesty of that the state gets a portion of what it should get out of it. That's always been the problem. Is do you trust the people who run it? And then the second thing is, if you do a lottery, what does the money go for? In my book, it goes towards job multipliers. It goes towards those 2-year colleges, so that you have the money there to offer young people coming K through 12 to go and get certifications. Half of it needs to go there. Half of it needs to go to 4-year colleges, because 4-year colleges are getting so expensive nowadays that people can't afford them. I just put a son through 4-year college, and I know what kind of raise I got when he finally got out. But that's I think is the key to the lottery. Gambling is a whole different story. The gambling that I've seen in different places has social ills and social effects on it. As a mayor, I can see the social ills. I can see the social effects. But we have one sector that can do it, one sector that can't do it. Different sheriffs are making the decision on whether you can do bingo or whether you can do something else. Greene County has 5 bingo halls going, which are not bingo to me. It looks like one-armed bandits. So, somewhere in there, we need to have a definition, and we need to have an answer, and we need to have a legal answer as to whether that is legal or not, whether we are going to do it or not. The whole question needs to come up to the law. That's how I decide things as mayor. What's the law? What's the purview? What does it say that I should do and that I have the power to do? And that's where it needs to fall.
When you're talking a little bit about the economic development, how do you balance the incentives,
Sure.
the incentive packages with what it's going to mean to the economy? Is there a magic formula, or is there a number that you hit? Obviously it's big numbers when you look at it, but how do you balance that?
We balance it by looking at return on investment. And it really is. It's an investment, and then what's your return on investment? Our investment into Toyota was our direct dollar investment was about $80 million. And that $80 million was for the land and then for a railroad spur that came into it. The second portion of it, there was another $240 million, which was I would call unfound money. It's money that would not be coming to us unless they came in. Is property tax that has been abated, which there would not be a property tax there unless they did the investment that they're doing. It would be the permit fees that are waived. There would not be a permit fee unless they came in and did the investment that they're doing. So, we measure it by the amount of money that is actually the direct amount of money that we put into it. $81 million. For $81 million, we get back $200 million a year in payroll, year in and year out. And that doesn't count the supplier part, that doesn't count the multiplier effect of 2.5 jobs for every job. And for $81 million, we will also have the chance to have future growth, tier 1, tier 2 automotive plants, which may not land in Huntsville and probably won't land in Huntsville, but they may land in Birmingham, or they may land here in Alexander City. They may land down in Dothan. They may land in the Quad Cities area. But that just adds to the base of what you have in your community. And when you look at this generational product like this, over a 20-year period, there's something like a $4.6 billion return on investment that comes in with the Toyota Mazda plant. $4.6 billion versus an $81 million investment. From our side, we think that is a good deal for the taxpayers.
That's a
good
gamble
deal
that
for
you
everybody. It is a gamble that you can take.
And Mitch, I think we got time for one more question.
Sure, that's fine. We're right at 20 minutes. Either one of you guys, I've been yakking a lot. So.
I guess it's more party specific, but this is probably the first election in a while where it's not a foregone conclusion that a Republican will be president, or the governor. So
Yeah.
is there, for somebody who has lost faith in the direction of
Sure.
the Republican Party, what is your comments to them?
I think one of the most important things is that, and that gets back to the question of bringing back faith in government. How do you bring back faith in government? If you've looked at government and you've gotten jaded, and you've seen what's happened on the federal side, you've seen what happens on the state side, and you see the partying going on in Montgomery and everything, you start looking at all of it, you say, golly, we should be better than that. And we should. And I think it's time that we have some leadership that says we are going to be better than that. For 10 years, I've earned a reputation as mayor of Huntsville. And I challenge anybody who has a friend in Huntsville or knows somebody in Huntsville, call them and ask them about me. And they will tell you that we have done a great job, that we have provided for economics, we've provided to grow. But beyond that, we have provided for a government that people believe in. We have told people, we are doing this. This is our strategy. This is our plan. This is why we're doing it. And this is the end result. And as we have shown time after time after time that we have kept our word, that we've done what we said we were going to do, the people believe in you. And they have faith in you. And they have to have faith in the people who are elected to office just as much as they have to have faith in the office. The people are the ones who pretty much take away the faith in the office. And we have got to make sure that we rebuild that. And the only way to rebuild that is by some leadership. I challenge people, look at our 10-year record, look at what we've been able to do in 10 years, and look at what we do on a regular basis. We've got 5 council members, and they're all nonpartisan, but I would say there's 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and probably a Libertarian on there. But we have everything that we do is 5-0 votes, and with 5-0 votes, because we work with each other and we tell the story of this is the end result. This is why we're doing this. This is where we're going to end up, and because we built faith in that government.
That's a great way of looking at it. And this is your chance to do a 20-second commercial.
20-second commercial. I love
right
those.
here. Tell the voters why to vote for
you. All right. We are the only candidate in this race that has a track record. We have a 10-year track record. We have a 10-year track record of honest, good government, building jobs, building an economy. Over the last 10 years, 62% of the jobs that have been brought to the state of Alabama have come through the growth that we've done in the Huntsville, Alabama area. And I would appreciate your vote on June 5th.
Great. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Guys, thank y'all so much.